Welcome everybody. Sorry we're a little late starting, but as I said, I'm missing one panelist, but no doubt she will find us. I do hope so. She's somewhere in the building, we know. My name is Delia Hennigan. I have worked in international education for probably nearly 30 years, and much of that time has been spent working in India. So I lived in India for quite some time. And it is my second home. So it's a real pleasure to be back here today, speaking with you and being part of this amazing conference. What I think is exciting about working in India at the moment is the pace of change and the way things are developing and the different opportunities that is opening up for people who work in this sector to work together differently. And it requires, different skills, different models, different mindsets. And so today I'm joined by colleagues who have also been working in this space for many years and have an incredible range of experiences to share with you. So this is not going to be death by PowerPoint session. We don't have any slides, and it's really about sharing experiences. We'll have some time at the end for questions so that you will be able to connect with practitioners who might be able to sort of give you an insight or a response to something that you might have a burning desire to know about. Okay, so just very quickly, I'm going to introduce my colleagues. I'll start at this end. Arusha Jain is someone I have known for many years and worked with. She is a partner at Cyril Mandaglas, who are a very eminent firm of lawyers in India and who specialize in supporting universities, schools from around the globe in partnership work in India and a whole range of other things, but she is the partner who leads the education division. So welcome, Arushi, and thank you for joining us. And then another colleague who I have known for many years and had the pleasure of working with, Mr. Vineet Tully, who is the Pro-Vice Chancellor at Chitkara University. He was one of the pioneers in this space in India. He won't like me saying that, but it's true. And he has worked in building relationships and partnerships for many years and has got lots of experiences to share. Thank you, Vineet, for coming today. And then another colleague, Dr. Gillian Ice from Ohio University, and she is here together with another colleague to share the views of international universities. What opportunities are they looking for? What do they see are the benefits of partnerships? And then my final panelist with me at the moment is Dr. Jeet Joshi. He is the just recently the past president of AIEA, which is a very eminent membership group in global higher education, and also the vice president for global practice engagement and all sorts of things global at California State University, Long Beach. So again, someone with lots of practical experience to share. So I'm now going to start off with my colleague, Vineet, and just ask him to share with us some of the experiences he has had in this space, building partnerships. So Vineet, would you like to just share with us some of your views? And
I'll try my best. So my journey in higher post-secondary education started with a Canadian public university back in Vancouver. That was way back in 2010 when they brought me on board to run a campus, a small footprint in India, in Chandigarh, the city I come from. And that university was University of the Fraser Valley, right? So my mandate was to turn the operations around. It was a very small footprint, and see how can we convince an Indian student, because back in my part of the woods, the students want to be in Canada yesterday, right? How do you convince a student to stay back in Chandigarh campus for the first 1 or 2 years in transit, and then sort of transfer to Canada and take those credits and enter into the third year of an undergrad education? I ran that model for almost 5 years, till the time I went to Harvard to pursue a business education and ran into another individual called Mohit Chitkara, right? Who met me and he said, Vineet, why don't we do something on a global scale, right? I told him that you're going to bleed and you're going to bleed profusely. Are you ready for this? He said, I'm all in, right? I joined Chitkara University and the rest is history. It was a very, very hard journey, I can tell you so much, because what we were proposing to international partners was extremely overwhelming. What I was proposing to a Canadian university was, you give us your curriculum, you give us your faculty to co-deliver the curriculum in Chandigarh, fly them halfway around the world for almost 2 to 3 months, and they told me, you must be kidding us, right? We are not prepared for that because we are getting such an influx of international students as such that we are not prepared. But eventually they saw the value in doing this because we were committing them, prepared students, 2 years later, to fill in some empty seats on the plane in the third and fourth year, prepared students on their curriculum. It was a very difficult journey, and we had to invest a lot of time and resources because they wanted us to comply with lot of compliances, right? They wanted a similar infrastructure to be put at Chitkara University. For example, George Brown College wanted us to put up a kitchen which is at par with the kitchen they have in Toronto. So the way that kitchen went up, they put the cameras around and they were watching us as we built the kitchens back in Toronto, right? So that was the level of, stringent vigilance, if I can say, but we did it, right? And then that led us to go to University of Windsor, and then Trent University, then Deakin University in Australia. And I can tell you, the remarkable thing was that here was a true blue transnational education model where we were recruiting students exclusively to come into the global school and 2 years later transfer to our partner and complete their education, right? It was an extremely demanding model because we had to invest in resources. We had to pay a dollar compensation to the visiting faculty from that part of the world, and then convince the students in our community that there is value to stay back here for 2 years. But we did it. With GBC, we started the journey, and now I'm so proud that this year we signed it. We signed our first American university, which is Arizona State University, as their first partner, right? We are bringing another Ivy League American university in next 2 years. I think will be the first. The reason we are doing it is because the proof of the concept has been established. So this has been our journey in short. I don't want to take more time unless Delia has some questions for me around this. But then it has been quite overwhelming journey, not only for us, for our partners also, but we started with 20 students 4 years back. Now every year we are taking 280 students at a tuition fee, which is equal to what a domestic student pays in that part of the world, which is 4 times the fee what Chitkara University would charge for a conventional Chitkara program back at Chitkara. But the parents and the students see the value in this. And then we go to the High Commission to tell them what we are doing so that when the visa file comes in front of a visa officer, he knows for a fact that the student has demonstrated enough academic success inside the program to take a transfer from location A to location B to complete their education. And for me, that is a complete circle. Besides that, there's a huge faculty capacity building for us as well, because those faculties who comes from our partners, they handhold our faculties, and then we send our faculty for a couple of months to our partners in Canada, US, and Australia so that they can go inside their classrooms and can teach there as well. And that's how the circle gets completed. So this has been my experience so far.
Thank you so much, Vineet. And I think you touched there on some of the key stages of this journey. You gave us, I think, the whole remit, that circle, where when you started, you were scrutinized. It had to be exactly the same. There had to be, no sort of deviation from that. But now, as a trusted partner, there is that respect, there is that mutuality. And I think in my experience, and also experience of colleagues who work in this space, that is one of the essential parts of a successful partnership. It is about finding the right partner that has the right mission and vision match with you, and then working together and being flexible, but only flexible, but not undermining quality or the experience of the students. That is really at the heart of everything we do, the opportunities that students get. And Vineet, just to ask you to say one final word about that, You explained about the students and parents now see the value. Are you welcoming any students from university partners to come and study with you at Chitkara?
Absolutely. This year, we have welcomed almost 8 Canadian students from our 2 universities, Windsor and Trent, 3 from Windsor and 5 from Trent, who are doing a semester at Chitkara, right? Because they see their own faculty inside Chitkara classrooms, right? It's their curriculum being delivered within Chitkara. So they are experiencing India and they are being educated on the same curriculum while they are here. So that's happening. And then some Australians from Deakin University, because Deakin program, where we have partnered with them for a software engineering 2+2, we are recruiting almost 200 students every year in that program. And out of those, almost 30 odd students are Australians who come from Australia and sit within those classrooms and do a semester or 2 here.
Thank you. I'm now going to move over to my colleagues from our US university partners today to pick up that theme, and then we'll come to Arushi and to Dr. Pankaj Mittal, who has kindly joined us, and we'll talk a little bit more about regulatory space and some of the ways in which the AIU is helping universities understand the different aspects of these types of partnerships. But just, I think, first to ask Gillian, if she, as a provost at a US university, what is the view from the US in terms of how you look for partners, what it is that are your priorities, and what it is that you hope to be able to gain from working in partnership in this space?
Sure, thank you. So I'm new to my role as Associate Provost for Global Affairs, just been in the role for a year. But before that, I was directing our Global Health initiative at the university for 12 years. So this is somewhat new to me for cross sort of pan-university partnerships, but we've been working on partnerships in global health for a long time. I would say really it depends on the goal of each partner and where there's a mutual interest. So there's both goals that each institution is looking for as well as the goals of the partnership. For us, and I think for many universities, most of our partnerships actually start with a faculty-to-faculty connection. So it's often research-based connection, but sometimes it's some sort of pedagogical shared interest as well. And sometimes that's where partnerships stay, and I think that's fine. We just celebrated an anniversary with a partnership with a partner university in Japan, 50-year anniversary. And it indeed started with a faculty-to-faculty connection. But as that deepened, other colleagues were sort of taken along, and we started developing a faculty exchange program. So we flipped faculty for short periods of time. And now we have multiple student exchange programs, study abroad. We do English language training for them. And we have about 100 students from Chubu that come every year for that English language training. And so I think certainly that although you might start with a small connection, that they grow. But I think one of the things that we're trying to do at the university, and I would say is pretty common in the field, there were lots of workshops at AIEA last year on this, is that more and more universities are taking a systematic approach now to partnerships. And so there's some sort of assessment rubric, and we're just starting to embark on this journey at the university, where we're trying to match our partners to what the university mission, vision, and current strategy is. And we will use that rubric to evaluate current partners, but also in prospective partners. So what I think will likely be in our rubric are the potential for research collaborations, the alignment of academic programs. It's really important, obviously, to have shared academic programs to enable these kind of 2+2 type programs. Potential for student mobility, and I think that potential is not only about matching academic programs, but where the market is. At U.S. universities, we have more students that tend to go to Europe than to other countries. But that doesn't mean there isn't a market to go elsewhere. And then the other area that is important to me is connecting where we have lots of alumni and where we have prospective students. So one of the things that I noticed at Ohio University is we don't have strong partners in India, and I think that's a real important gap that we need to address. So
Okay, thank you. And I think that that point that you've just made, Gillian, about the fact that partnerships can start in many different ways, and that's the way it used to be, sort of quite serendipity, really, about people meeting. But now people are becoming much more intentional and strategic in their choice of partnerships. But I think that the example that you've given us of the sort of the way that these partnerships can grow and then spread out across the university is a great example, because they may start in one academic discipline, but you can bring, sort of other colleagues in, and it can really drive change in the university. And a partnership of 50 years is certainly one that's worth celebrating. So hopefully in 50 years' time, you'll be celebrating your Indian partner's 50th.
I certainly hope so.
So thank you. Jeet, and I know the AIEA has done a lot of work in this space. The Association of International Educators in the US does an incredible range of work. But just thinking about that, and also thinking about the work you do at Long Beach, would you sort of explore with us some of your views and experiences in this partnership space, the different types, and how you've approached it?
Well, thank you, Delia. So I will kind of try to wear the both hats, one as the immediate past president of AIEA and also the chair of the conference. The AIEA presidential stream is a 3-year commitment. You serve as the president-elect, and then the president and the immediate past president serving on the board, and in the last year chairing the conference, which is going to take place in first week of March in Houston, Texas this year. We have a model, 2 years in DC and 2 years away. the 1 year away. So it just happens to be Houston for this next year in 2025. The association is, as Delia said, eminent organization globally, certainly North America based, US based, but it is the association of the leaders in international higher education. Most of its members are senior administrators, including some of the president's provost, but mostly the senior international officers who drive the global agenda of the institution. And they have, the association itself has a number of initiatives, and we host delegations from different countries at the conference, as well as projects, similar to what we did last year with the ASEAN countries, having a, year-long program with a face-to-face component coinciding with the conference in Washington, D.C. at that time. 50 fellows were selected, 25 from the U.S., 25 from the ASEAN countries, and they were massed. And the main objective of that, funding that came from USAID, U.S. Department of Education, was to look into building partnerships between U.S. universities and the ASEAN country universities. So AIA is a place, for, looking into the collaboration, the partnerships, like-minded, the conversation that takes place. Some 60 countries participate in the conference, certainly heavy from US and Canada. As to the institutions in the US, I would say, since we're talking about developing a transnational, education for Indian higher education, I would try to make it simple. Before the national education policy, I would say it was complicated, to come to India, working with Indian institutions. In many attempts, it didn't quite work out. And then people kind of gave up. Other than some of the specific projects, like the one that we had with University of Lucknow, It was a Hewlett Foundation funded project. We ran it for about 8 or 9 years, as long as the funding existed. But it was mainly to provide professional development opportunities for faculty in University of Lucknow. So we exchanged faculty on a regular basis, groups of faculty, sometime individual, but mostly groups of faculty visiting Long Beach, and also groups of faculty from Long Beach coming to Lucknow. As a result of that, that is the only university that we have an exchange partnership in India. And this is pre-pandemic. It started off very well. We had a number of students come here. We had some students, come over there in Long Beach. But after the pandemic, so pandemic put a stoppage to it. As we all know, many of the exchange did not happen. After that, it has been slow. We are still in conversation of reviving that partnership, but it was very specifically funded for that. And so that was a little simpler to institute. So where I'm going with this is I kind of see what is happening after the new education policy. So I was here in February with a higher education leadership delegation that came from the US. Altogether, I think 29 leaders who were here from some about 20 universities. And my colleagues from IIE, Vivek and Ekta, both are here. They were instrumental in running that program in February. We met with at least, I'm not remembering, at least 20 to 25 vice chancellors from different parts of the university. We came here in Delhi, and the group kind of split to Mumbai and Hyderabad. And in all of the 3 sites, we had that conversation in terms of the partnership, how they can work together. These are senior leaders who could, really look into from a more global, vision, not just about recruitment or, exchange or this, but comprehensive internationalization perspective on both ends. So the way I see it, what is happening now is so encouraging and so exciting that Indian institutions, since that visit in February, I have at least received, a couple hundred emails about the possibility, exploration of possibilities between our universities. I view it as, so what happened in China 20 years ago, I think is happening after the NEP here. And I hope it wouldn't happen how China started. China started this partnership, initiative in the beginning to internationalize their higher education. They invested heavily in their institutions. They put a lot of money, both infrastructure, research, faculty development, all of that. And they did a wonderful job. But when they looked at international universities, they were squarely focused on ranking. And believe it or not, many US universities get put off by that. Ranking is not as important. Yeah, we take a look at it because students take a look at it and the parents take a look at it, not because, we think that provides the true picture. And there are so many different, rankings. Actually, there's a ranking organization to rank the ranking organization. So that's that. But Chinese institutions had that, heavy, emphasis on it. And as I started, my journey into China, and we have many partners there, I became really good friends with some of the deans, some of the, vice presidents there. Everyone wanted to work with Harvard. Everyone, really, either Yale or Harvard. And when I became good friends, I used to very frankly tell them, my friend, Harvard will not even talk to you because you think they are the highest ranking and you want to work with them. And they will ask you what's your ranking, and they would shriek and say, oh, we don't have a ranking like that. I said, then why is the ranking so important? So I hope that doesn't start off, like that, because there are so many institutions. selfishly speaking from a, U.S., perspective, so many institutions who may not appear in the rankings who are far better than some who would be in the ranking. So it's a very diverse landscape in the U.S. when it comes to higher education, both in the public and the private side. I think the whole history of this, and when you talk about international partnerships and transnational education, from an institutional perspective, you can't just focus on one segment. Yeah, of course, those are good. When faculty exchange happens, faculty starts the project, those are quick wins, and those are results that you can see immediately. But trust me that individually focused partnership in time dies down, because either the faculty member leaves or retires, or because it is so individually focused. So I always try to take a look at it from an institutional perspective. So even if I move on, the program would still be there. And certainly you have to take a look at the inbound and outbound perspective. Bringing students is one way to take a look at the partnership, or sending our students to your institution is another way to take a look at it. And not to forget, certainly the faculty and staff, exchanges that takes place in that whole thing, and the research agenda of the institution. So the institutional global mission has to be matched, between the two in all different, areas. Not everything has to match, but as long as the, global mission of the two institutions are there, and then you start off with all the different, initiatives. I think that would happen, but the branch campus, all that, we do 2+2 with Vietnam. We have international transfer programs, so we evaluate. Even if we don't have a 2+2, we do take in students as a transfer by evaluating their credentials. That is happening as well. But then if you look at the history of these branch campuses, the track record isn't that good, actually. There are some in the Middle East, they have been successful, but even there, there are some big initiatives like Michigan had to close down. NYU is running, but not to the extent that they thought it would. Some of the ones in Qatar is doing well. Some are in and out. The track record isn't great, so I wouldn't go with the brick and mortar kind of initiative right away. I know the two, Wollongong and Deakin, is at the safe economic zones. But before you get there, I think there are a lot of other things that could be done from the institutional perspective for faculty, students, staff, all of those. So that's the way I look at it.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Jeet. I think you've covered so many different areas of partnership that people will be able to sort of select some of those insights that you've shared. And I think some of the important things that I would pick up from what you were saying is certainly, yes, as an international director in a UK university for many years, I used to watch the debate about whether India was going to allow transnational education from about 2000. Yeah. Every few years, someone would say, it's going to happen. And we'd all say, oh, and then it wouldn't happen. So yes, we were all very active in China, in Southeast Asia, building these partnerships, TNE. And as Jeet said, they were often founded on quite transactional processes, because in China, it was very much, we were there because it was a way of bringing Chinese students through and being able to manage the influx and the numbers. But they were very, very sort of focused on that. The Chinese government did change their approach maybe about 5 years ago, where they wanted those partnerships to change and not be so sort of 2+2, 2+1. I think where India is at the moment, and I have a colleague, a very eminent colleague who's going to talk about that in a moment, is to learn from some of those experiences we all had in other parts of the world. And it's not just a lift and shift from one country to drop into India and follow that. It's reflect on what we've learned, what worked well, how we sort of made progress in different types of partnerships and developed the models that work for India and meet India's needs. That is I think, the exciting thing about the NEP. And what I think is exciting is after all those years of waiting, 2 decades of every couple of years thinking it was going to happen, when the NEP did come out, and it was an amazing document, people were a little bit skeptical. We have to be honest about that. Is it going to make a difference? I can only share with you my perspective. I have certainly seen differences are starting to accelerate, changes happening. The UGC, the AIU, the ministry are all doing the things that need to be done to make it happen. It won't all happen overnight. It's a long road to go, but the pace and the journey is very exciting. And Dr. Pankaj Mittal is very much part of that pace and that work happening. So I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit about what the AIU has in place. And they have lots of initiatives in place working with other colleagues in the sector in India to support Indian universities and international universities to make those partnerships work. As Jeet said, it's not all about rankings. And the rankings question, we could have a whole conference on that, I think. And, I come from the UK, where I think we sort of invented it really and not necessarily in a good way. And I came from a university that didn't have the Harvard ranking. So yeah, we sort of suffered from that obsession with ranking. But I'm going to pass over now to Dr. Pankaj to tell us about some of the initiatives that are happening and the support that's available to allow Indian universities to be successful in this space. Dr. Patel, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. In India, as Dr. Jeet was mentioning, is now opening up. The national education policy, which came in 2020, I think this was the first actually this is the third national policy, but the first national policy which laid so much of impetus on internationalization of higher education. For a long time, our universities and the foreign universities were talking of dual degrees, joint degrees, twinning programs. They were not allowed. Many foreign universities are wanting to set up their campuses in India. They were not allowed. Transfer of credits was almost nil. Very few universities were doing. But with this national education policy, all that is now allowed, and that too without any hindrances. For example, earlier, if somebody had to do academic collaboration, means Indian university and a foreign university, a lot of approvals were required. But now it is only the eligibility conditions which have been laid down by UGC in its regulations, both for the Indian partners and the foreign partners. And once they are met, those eligibility conditions, straight away the partnership can be executed. No approvals required. Earlier, the approvals took a lot of time. So India is moving ahead on the path of internationalization. We at Association of Indian Universities, I'm not talking on behalf of one university as many of us are. I'm talking on behalf of 1,022 universities, because AIU is the largest university network in the world. Present membership is 1,022 universities, which also includes some international universities. We are into a number of areas, where we are working. For example, we are working in academics, research, we are working in sports. We do sporting events for the students, right from, say, zonal level till international level. We do many youth festivals. We do equivalence of foreign degrees with the Indian degrees. And we also do a lot of internationalization. So after this national education policy, again, we also thought that at AIU, we should be promoting our universities in internationalizing, because as you know, India is a diverse country. We have something like 1,200 universities in the country, 40,000 colleges, around 40 million students. And some universities are very good in internationalization, but some are not very good, although they have an intent to do the internationalization. So we know many universities who want to do it, but don't know how to do it, whom to partner with, how to find a good partner, how to approach any person, how to even set up an office of international students. Because NEP says and the UGC regulation says that every university should be having an office for international students. But many universities don't even know what that office will be like. What should be the size, what should be the structure, what will be the activities, what type of work they should be doing, how will they facilitate international students. And also, like in India, if you see the figures, at present we have something like 48,000 foreign students in India. and most of them are from, like 25% are from Nepal, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Africa. From Western country or USA, there are very few students. But the number of students who are going out of India is around 10 to, I think, 1.1 to 1.2 million. So that is the mismatch or the gap. So we feel in India that we should be attracting a lot of foreign students, because India is now projected as a destination for affordable quality education, because affordability is also very important. Many universities in, say, West or in US, they are not affordable for many students. So India is now a destination for affordable quality education. To that effect, we have established a network within our network of AIU, that is a Indian network for international higher education. So far we have heard of NAFSA, Obriel, many networks, but India never had a network of international higher education like US. So we have set up a network called Indian Network for International Higher Education. We have just started it. Under that, we are doing many activities. We are enrolling students, universities, colleges, faculty, everybody as the member. Membership is absolutely free, because we want to promote internationalization in India. And we are, for example, holding many webinars on many issues: how to internationalize, how to partner, how to even set up international students office. We are taking delegations to various countries of our universities so that they can showcase their education to the foreign countries. So in the last year we had 2 delegations. One was in Nepal, one was in Vietnam. We are thinking of one in Thailand and Myanmar and Sri Lanka very shortly. Apart from that, we have a collaboration portal where we are helping the universities to collaborate. For example, if a foreign university wants to come and collaborate with Indian university, they know maybe the ranking of the university, which he says is not valuable, but then they know the ranking and they know the NAC rating. NAC is National Assessment and Accreditation Council, which rates the universities. But if they want to know that which university is good in, say, quantum physics, which university is good in material science, they don't come to know. So in our collaboration portal, what we are telling our universities is that fill in the data regarding where you are good at, along with the credentials in terms of facilities, faculties, research, acumen, all those things they will fill up. And then if a foreign university goes to the collaboration portal and writes quantum physics, they will come a list of the Indian universities, potential Indian universities, whom they can approach in that particular subject area. So all that now we are integrating with INHI, that is Indian Network for International Higher Education. And I think it will be a very hit network. So we want more and more people to become a member of that particular network, not only to gain, but also to contribute. Because it's a contributory network in which knowledge of every person will help the other person. So we are creating a co-learning space or a sharing space where we can learn from each other. So that is something which we are doing, apart from facilitating the equivalence of foreign degrees with Indian degrees. Earlier it was a little tough. Now we have made it very simple. It is totally online. You can apply. So any foreign students who comes to India for pursuing higher education, they can apply on the AIU portal, get the equivalent certificate, and get admission in the university of their choice. So that has also been eased. It has been made credit-based rather than the duration-based. So we are doing many things to promote internationalization of higher education. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pankaj. And I think she very briefly touched there on some of the amazing work that the AIU was doing. And I remember hearing about that collaboration portal about 2 years ago when you first set it up. And I think it is something that is definitely worth exploring, because just to bring it back to the point on rankings, we may all smile about rankings, but they are a tool, and they are something that we have to pay attention to, because they will be important to people outside of maybe the international office in a university. So, but subject specialisms, knowing where you've got your sort of subject strengths and matches is really important. But that internationalization thread that runs through the NEP and is being driven by a lot of the developments at AIU is really important. It enriches the student experience. And I think that's why, it's so critical that universities are active in this, in our space. But I would say that, wouldn't I? Because I've spent 25 years doing this. So I'm now going to ask our final speaker, who has flown in from Mumbai to join us for this session. And I also, Arushi, as I said, I've worked with her for many years. Her field of work is advising universities on partnerships, on regulatory environment. As another lawyer, because law is my academic subject, it's really, really important that universities pay attention to the legal context, because it is, an area of complexity, and universities need to be making sure that they have got the right structures in place, the right contracts in place, the right risk management. And Arushi is someone who advises universities in that space. So the regulations have opened up, they've allowed things to happen, but you still need to have that sort of structure around what you're doing. Arushi, would you share with us some of your thoughts about this space?
Thank you, Delia. And I think you just kind of summed up. So if people want to leave early, like you have 10 minutes at hand.
Absolutely not.
But this is, when being a lawyer, it's such a tricky job, because typically when clients, and I've done this for over 15 years now, any university, whether Indian or foreign, when they come with an intention that I want to do this. I want to enter into a TNE partnership. Let's do this. Let's sign the contract in next 2 days and we're good to go. But it doesn't happen like that. We might have very high aspirations and we might have timelines and the clock is ticking, but it does take some time. And what I'm going to just share in the next couple of minutes is some of the practical insights that I have seen when I've worked with Indian and foreign universities. About say 10, 15, 20 years ago, like Dr. Pankaj was saying, that we didn't really have crisp regulations. So when universities used to come to India, whether from abroad or when Indian universities look at partnerships, there was always this looming question. We want to do this, but is it allowed? Or is it not allowed? Because we are kind of in a gray. The law doesn't say not allowed in particular, but if we do that, what is the risk? Now, while Indian universities would be willing to take some risk, foreign universities have a very different outlook, because they have their boards, there's a reputation, they're coming to India for the first time, what happens, and they want lawyers to sign off on everything, that we have taken all due diligence and care. So this question came up a lot, and I'm very thankful that the regulations sort of came in, because I was a little tired of answering that question, that it's okay, you can do that. Eventually, when the regulations come, we'll kind of update it. Now, at least when we advise clients, we say, this is the regulation, you have to do it like that. The second question that comes is, we want to do TNE, and we'll just, kind of spring into action. But when we start asking these questions, but exactly how are you planning to do your TNE? What exactly are you doing? Are you doing a student exchange? Are you doing joint degree, dual degree? Is it twinning? Are you sharing credits? Is it just collaboration for research purposes? Are you really thinking about a campus? Because TNE today is so vast, right? Anything which has a touch point on transnational education is TNE. We start asking these searching questions, and then we start discovering answers. So sometimes they just start with, oh, I'll do two semesters here and a couple of semesters there. And then we go back and tell them that, but there are regulations, right? So you have to now go back and see what you need to do. So it's not as simple as how I decided, but we'll also have to align it with what the regulations have to say. It takes a little bit of time, but I think in the long run, it gives a lot of comfort to parties, because they know that they are at least standing on the right side of the law. The other piece is, the faculty exchanges that happen, or the student exchanges, I would say, is still simpler. It's a matter of, your visa applications and acceptance. But when there is faculty flying in or flying out, there is a tax implication that happens for Indian universities, foreign universities, etc. I've seen many instances where faculties come in more than 90 days, more than 180 days, we have permanent establishment issues. And now there is a tax department notice, or maybe we have a GST sort of an issue. And I've seen that many prominent universities have gone through these cycles. So these are things, if they can be ironed out, they don't leave a bad taste later, because once you have a negative experience in a country, you kind of set back the clock to 10 years and you say, no, I'm not going to go to the country. And also the Indian partner feels much more scared in doing the same thing. Other piece is exchange control. In any kind of TNE, you have monies going out of India, monies coming into India. And like many countries, we do have exchange control laws. You can't just transfer or wire transfer money. You need to have your documentation. Why are you doing it? Compliances. There are many, many touch points that happen here. And with universities coming into India to also consider campus model, we have the GIFT regulations, but we also have the India regulations. Very similar in their liking, but then The India regulations are kind of more open. They allow joint venture arrangements, things that parties probably have not considered at the first instance because they are very new and we haven't really explored. But could you have a joint venture partner in India who could help you in doing exactly what you want to do? Is just a collaboration your way to go? Do you have a bigger game? I think these are some of the searching questions. And while as lawyers, our job is just to write the document. Sometimes in the course of our learnings, we become a little wiser, and maybe we tend to help clients go on the right path. So I'll stop there.
I think you've just hit the nail on the head. Lawyers that work in this space are not there just to sort of draft a contract. They're there to help you think what you might be able to do and throw up some of the pitfalls, the challenges. They're not there to stop you, but they can be, resolved and helped if you've got the right advice. I'm going to open it for 1 or 2 questions now. We're a bit short on time, so maybe just 1 or 2 questions if someone's got something burning they'd like to ask. Shishir.
One thing which I saw and I researched a lot about, when we were thinking about having a campus in India. By the way, I represent University of Southern California. I am the country director for University of Southern California in India, and we just started the liaison office in India. And the point of, having a campus in India, because the law is so new, what will happen in a year or 2 year or 3 year, 4 year down the line, we don't know. And that's where the hesitancy comes in committing, what to do. And that's might be the sentiment for most of the universities. What's your take on it? Is this law going to stay? It's going to, whether it's going to be only limited to GIFT City or it's going to be replicated in other part of India. So these are certain questions that must be there in most of the universities' mind. And any, idea that you have how it will pan out?
So, I'll probably just. Laws are definitely going to stay because laws are always sort of reactionary in nature. They're never created to cater to a particular business model, if I may say so. They're always because, there's a demand and now we just need to set baseline principles. And the way India has been going, it's not like heavy regulation, it's more enabling sort of regulation. GIFT is now done in the sense that there is precedence and we helped as a firm extensively with those precedents. So we have seen that there's obviously a lot of learning. First time you read something, you think it's simple. The more you read it, the more questions you have, and the 10 people come together, there are 200 questions that put together. We have seen that work now, and hopefully, that will be a success story. As far as India is concerned, at least I can say that as an advisor, I get, queries day in and day out. I wouldn't say that every decision is taken in a day, but there is a lot that is happening, and I don't see why this shouldn't be a success.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, thank you. My name is Abhishek Nair. I'm from the PI. It's a UK-based international education outlet. My question is about the fact that how do you think transnational education can be blended with career opportunities? Because a lot of these students who probably want to study in Indian university, they usually go abroad because they are also getting a work opportunity right after the studies. So how are they able to if international universities do open up campuses in India, how are international students and Indian students would be able to avail career opportunities through these transnational education pathways?
I'll take this. If you look at what Deakin has done back at Gift City, they have no intention to send the Indian students to Deakin, Australia. All right? They don't have a career center ready for them back in Melbourne, right? So they're educating the students here. They have tied up with 4 to 5 good companies like TCS. They have brought them on the campus and told them that, look, these guys would be looking at you once you graduate out of the program. These are our preferred employment partners, right? So the universities who are going to be putting up a campus here or who have already put up a campus here, they are not coming here to create a pathway to the mother campus there. They want the students to get educated or get the parchment here in India, graduate with it, and then maybe, go anywhere in the world. But mostly, their intent is not to create a pathway from A to B. They want to complete the entire education here in their campus.
Post-work visa, like when they go there and study, they get the visa, post-study visa.
So you know the problems with post-study visa, they have already started back in Canada, right? We will see that more in Australia as well. They are defining that they're defining the courses or the skill sets that they need, and the students who wish to stay back are going to be aligned with those skill set that those countries need, and then be given a post-study work permit. Otherwise, they have started saying rather, that you come into our country, all right, get educated, but go back. We don't want you to pursue a permanent residency here unless you are being educated on a skill set that we have listed and we need it here. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think this is an area, again, another area where we could have a whole day talking about it. But I think that what's important is that what's happening in India, and there will be a really interesting announcement about some exciting developments in this space later on today. So I'm flying the flag for the UK there. But it's very important that really, I think what this is about, and just to wrap up, is TNE is about expanding opportunities. So it's about universities in India and international universities working together to give Indian students different opportunities, expanded opportunities, not just to go for permanent residence somewhere else. India is, going to be the 21st century sort of success story. It is already. So it's about being able to pursue your career here. If students want to go and live somewhere else, that's fine. Transnational, these are global citizens we're preparing. And I think we need to make sure that and you can be a global citizen and stay in India if that's what you want to do. You can be sort of from Canada and come and work in India. So it's very much about students, having opportunities. And I think but career opportunities are important to every student. So anyone who's setting up an international branch campus in India will have that high on their agenda. How can we enhance employability? Every university has to have a focus on that in their development, in their planning. But key question. Sorry, Jeet, you wanted to say something.
I was just going to add a few points on that, and slightly different, approach that U.S. has taken for a long time. I would say U.S. policy, which is not written, it's not stated anywhere, has always been keeping the best and the brightest in the country. That's how U.S. has operated for many, 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 years. And so you all have heard about the OPT, which is the optional practical training after the graduation, up to 3 years if you're in the STEM area, and 1 year if you are not. That leading that to H-1B and then to permanent residency. So it is really intended for that purpose, to keep the skilled workforce, in the country. And often not talked about other, visa categories is like the J-1, which allows a faculty member to come to US for up to 6 years. It really doesn't, need to go through any of that process. Any university, all universities who has that authorization can, do a J-1 for faculty exchange, as well.
Thank you, Jeet. As I said, we can talk, but we're going to have to stop now because I think we're holding up the next session. Thank you so much to my amazing panel. The experience here is just incredible. And thank you so much for listening, and have a great conference. Thank you so much.